On today's Expert Process Podcast, do you know that it takes 10,000 hours to master any subject? Welcome to the Expert Process Podcast, where we cut the time to mastery in half with our seasoned pros. And now, from Atlanta, Georgia, broadcasting worldwide, here's your resident expert, Deronte Smith.
Hey everybody, this is Deronte Smith. You guys know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm with the Expert Process Podcast. I'm coming to you right now from Kidscreen 2023. If you don't know about Kidscreen, it's probably the biggest animation, kids programming, podcasting, you name it, in the country, in the universe, metaverse, anyway, you get the point. So I'm sitting here today. Now, what I want you guys to understand, this young lady has given me her time twice. Yesterday, we took the interview and I goofed up, okay? And we just couldn't get the sound the way I wanted it. So she's come back, and I wanted to make that point because when people give me their time, I always like to acknowledge that, right? So thank you so much. So guys, on the show today, we have Jan Stebbins. She's out of New York, is that right? Yeah, she's out of New York. She is a super producer. Don't let her tell you anything otherwise, okay? She's a super producer. She is showrunner, hat wearer of all different kinds of hats. And I was Octonauts or something. Octonauts, right? Octonauts.
Olivia.
Anyway, she's gonna get into all that. So what I want her to do is, I'm a fly on the wall. I'm just throwing some questions in, sprinkling in, right? So I'm gonna let her tell you what she's about, what she's able to do. Jan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And let's start with this. Tell them what you do, because the thing I find most, people don't understand what we do, right? And they think that our jobs are made up, right? Like, they think everything that you see on TV is magical. It magically appears. Those jobs aren't real. And because they can't understand it, then apparently we are in a play space. So
what times is a
yeah, most times not. So yes, Jan, please help these folks understand.
Sure. So I am an independent animation producer. What that means is I work with various companies in like a consulting capacity, and I wear a couple of different hats. So I do creative development, which is basically helping a creator come up with an idea and develop the characters in the world, or finding an existing piece of intellectual property like a book or a game, and adapting that for television. So that's sort of the earliest part of the process, and it's a really fun sort of sandbox to play in. And then once you get that idea working, you get it ready to pitch, and then it goes off, hopefully into production. So that's one part of what I do. And then the other part is sort of the straight up like nuts and bolts production.
Yes.
So that's called line producing, and that's making budgets and schedules, and setting up processes and pipelines with studios, and sort of managing the whole thing from a non-creative perspective.
Right.
So I do both, which is rare in our industry. Usually you sort of pick a lane, but I had the good fortune of kind of coming up in both places throughout my career. And it's great because I get to work on lots of different projects and lots of different capacities.
So which do you prefer?
Oh, loaded question. In all honesty, I really love both.
Okay.
I find each really satisfying in its own way. Like, I love when you finally crack a story wide open and it's working and it's flowing and the dialogue's funny. I love that. And I also love when like a cash flow adds up and the numbers are all aligning like you want them to. So I really do love both. And for me, it comes down to the project and the people I'm working with.
You will hear this term a lot. What we do in the industry is it's collaborative, right? What that means is we have to work together. There has to be synergy. One of the things you heard her just say is, when you said when it comes together, right? Well, what that means is, I'll give you an example, because I'm a writer as well as producing, directing. When you're in these writing rooms, to get the story worked out, believe it or not, it's a lot more work than people realize. You're talking about 10, 12, sometimes 16-hour days, get this stuff worked out because you're on a deadline. Am I right? So maybe speak to that.
Yeah, I think, finding the right team to work with when people are all on the same page creatively is really important. So whether you're a writer and you're working with other writers in a room, or you're a designer and you're working with an art director and the rest of the design team, everybody sort of uplifts everybody else. And, being able to bounce ideas off of other people who are in that same creative headspace is really important.
Yeah. Now, I say ideally because that is the ideal thing. Now, as we both know, oftentimes you have to put out a lot of fires because there are a lot of egos, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the other side that you have to deal with is managing egos and managing expectations. How do you do that?
Ooh. I think a big part of it is just communication and being already transparent.
Yes.
So, if everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and you're really, really upfront about the expectations and you don't let things fester, right? So if you sort of see things bubbling up, some personnel issues, you just bring everybody together and talk about it, right? You don't want to sort of allow ill will to sort of spread it. And I think that goes a long way, calling things out when you see it and working problems out early.